After Kennedy's assassination, his vice president, Lyndon Johnson, assumed the presidency. Johnson promised to ensure passage of Kennedy's Civil Rights Bill as a memorial to the slain president. However, Southern conservatives continued to fight the legislation. So President Johnson went to work, using the experience he had gained as Senate Majority Leader.
Johnson displayed his really extraordinary political skills and power in being able to transform what had been a Washington in which civil rights legislation was impossible into one in which it was enthusiastically embraced.
The landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibited racial discrimination in public accommodations, forbade discrimination by employers, and banned the use of different voter registration standards for blacks and whites. Now Johnson was ready for an even greater challenge. Like President Kennedy, Johnson had been greatly influenced by Michael Harrington's book, The Other America, which painted a wrenching picture of poverty in America. Johnson was inspired to commit billions of dollars to this cause. The war on poverty, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 were to be the centerpieces of what Johnson called the Great Society. His first victory in the war on poverty came with the passage of the Economic Opportunity Act, which created a variety of social programs designed to help people improve their lives, such as Job Corps, which provided training for the unemployed, and Head Start, an educational program for poor preschool children. In the 1964 presidential election, Johnson beat his Republican challenger, Senator Barry Goldwater, by a landslide. This lopsided victory also brought with it a large number of liberal senators and congressmen who shared Johnson's belief in the beneficial power of government. The new Congress passed numerous programs, including Medicare, a health insurance program for the elderly, and Medicaid, medical insurance for the poor, and federal aid for education. President Johnson also proposed legislation to reform U.S. immigration policy. Since World War I, U.S. policy had been based on a quota system that favored European immigrants. The Immigration Act of 1965 opened doors to more diversity, resulting in an increase in America's population of Asian and Hispanic people. As President Johnson pushed for his Great Society, several decisions by the U.S. Supreme Court had a great impact on civil liberties. The court banned prayer and Bible reading in public schools to protect the rights of religious minorities. The landmark case, Gideon versus Wainwright, required states to provide poor criminal defendants with an attorney, and Miranda versus Arizona required the police to inform criminal suspects of their rights. Johnson's Great Society was built on the assumption that America's booming economy would continue producing more than enough revenue to meet the government's needs. But Johnson hadn't taken into account the expense of fighting the Vietnam War. With the costs related to troops and equipment, there simply wasn't enough to adequately fund the Great Society programs, and many experienced cutbacks. In addition to taking a toll on the country's economy, the war was dividing the American people as well. On March 31, 1968, President Johnson stunned the American people by announcing that he would decline to run for re-election.
I shall not seek, and I will not accept the nomination of my party for another term as your president.